fairy tales, once sweet whispers of magic and hope, were far more sinister in the hands of the Brothers Grimm. Behind the enchantment lurked jealous stepmothers, witches who feasted on children, and fates far worse than death. These were not just stories, they were warnings. To always be good, or suffer the curse. Step into the shadows with us as we uncover the dark origins of the tales that shaped our childhoods and haunted our dreams. Hello, friends and family. Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Bizarre. I'm your old crone, Jessica.
And I'm Montana.
Who is not an old crone.
I'm a raven.
Yeah, she'll be a crone in 5 years.
Really?
Well, I mean, I'm 5 years older than you. So if I'm a crone now, then you'll be a crone in 5 years. Isn't that how math works?
I feel like you look younger than I do.
I don't. But thank you. It's a nice compliment.
You're welcome.
I think we're both doing pretty dang good for our age.
We'll see. Give it a couple months.
So would you like to tell everybody about our adventures yesterday and our dark cloud of doom that just follows us everywhere we go?
How we have the worst luck in the world when it comes to our podcast?
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, we're still here, though. We're still here. I want to give a shout out to Vito on his podcast, Dark Roast Revelations, because our episode with him is up. And it's funny because since we were on his podcast, the person he interviewed before us, he was having audio issues on his side. And it's like, well, because we were on your podcast. And
yeah, so he put another person that he interviewed in the same episode with our interview. So
yeah,
we cursed it.
And then last night we were supposed to be on Patty Wagon's podcast, and me and Jess joined the chat, just hanging out. And I guess he had a power outage, so he couldn't even get on his computer. So we had to reschedule the podcast.
And it's been scheduled for months.
Yeah,
like
literally
at least
months.
a month. Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's me and Jessica. And then I like how we were just hanging out on his thing, and we were just chit-chatting with each other, hanging out on his stream, just the two of us.
You're like, well, it's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Nice to get to see you and hang out.
So, if anyone that wants to work with us in the future, we're sorry.
Beware.
So, it's just, I don't know what it is about us. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are, still trudging along.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing's gonna stop us.
It's fine. So we ended up just watching the finale of You. I don't know if you've watched that show or not.
No, but I'd like to. Is it good? Would you recommend?
So for anyone that hated the 4th season like me because it was so bad, watch the 5th season. It definitely redeems itself.
Oh, it has that many seasons already?
Yeah.
I feel like how long's it been out?
Well, probably like 5 years, or it seems like it takes a long time for it to come out. So maybe it was longer than the course of 5 years. There's just 5 seasons. So I don't know.
Wow. Time. It flies.
Tell me about it. But it's good to see you. I'm back from Croatia.
Yes. How was your trip? Did you have safe travels? Obviously you did.
I'm here. I'm talking from the grave. It was good. We definitely had our stressors. quite a few stressors. We rented a rental car. We kind of destroyed our rental car, so that was fun.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So the streets are very narrow in Croatia. Like when we would try to go to our Airbnbs, like back in the housing area, their streets are just very, very narrow. And Google Maps, I wish you could sue Google. They took us this way. I guess it takes everybody. And we couldn't make the turn. So when Ryan tried to turn, he scraped the side of our rental car.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we got stuck actually. And thankfully, there was this family like right there that helped us try to get our car out because we couldn't get the car to reverse. It was like on a hill a little bit. We just could not get it to reverse. It would just go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. This guy we were blocking, trying to get through. He just like gets out of his car. He has a cigarette in his mouth, and he was like, "Can I try?" And then he reverses the car in like 2 seconds. So the dad of the family just completely backed up our car, like all the way out of the neighborhood. And his wife is like, "Well, my husband's just going off with your car. You can have him."
Aw.
So definitely not getting a deposit back on that. So that was a very stressful situation.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and then
How do
flying
you
home.
handle situations like that? Are you calm or do you get like panicky?
Both.
Yeah.
I think it just depends. Like either my fight or flight will kick in, or I kind of just like shut down and don't know what to do. So I just get really quiet. In that case, I kind of was just quiet and letting him deal with like the family trying to help him get the car out because there was like literally nothing I could do but just stand there and watch.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very stressful situation. And then coming home, we flew from Munich to Chicago O'Hare, and that was like already a 10-hour flight, and we had a 1 hour 20-minute layover. Have you been to O'Hare? It is a huge airport. So it took him forever to get to the gate when we landed, and what happened? Oh, so we're trying to go as fast as we can. We get to customs. Customs line was super long. Luckily, it was moving the whole time, but it was really, really long. And then I was like, okay, we made it through customs, and they're rushing to get to like the bus thing because we had to take to our terminal. So we got to our terminal. We're like, okay, we finally made it. And then we had to go to security again, but our tickets wouldn't scan to get to the security. And then when we finally got to go through, Ryan had to get his bag checked through security. It was like,
Smuggling goods back into the country.
it was just like
Damn
we
it, Ryan.
had to it was like leveling up. Like each level we had to fight a boss to get to it. And then while he was getting checked with his bag and security, he was like, okay, the gate is like 16B or something. And I was like, okay, see ya, bye. I was like, I'm getting home.
End game.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care. I'm getting home. You just get home later. But we barely made it, but we made it. And it was just super stressful. So,
Well, I'm glad you're back safe and sound.
yeah, me too.
And that you were allowed to come back into the country. You can cut that out if you want to.
No, it's fine. Everyone joked about, you sure you're going to get back into the country? You sure you're going to get back? So, I mean, customs usually is pretty easy. All they did was scan your face and they're like, all right, keep going. But I do need to renew my passport. It expires next year, so I don't know how that process is going to be.
Yay, you can get a new hairstyle for this next
Oh,
photo.
I know. I had to apologize to everyone I showed my passport to. I'm like, it's not a good photo, okay?
But it is me. It's not my brother.
It's me. So, yeah. Oh, I did have something creepy happen too.
in Croatia?
No, we had nothing
Oh.
spooky happen. Well, actually, we did have something spooky happen in Croatia.
Oh.
So Ryan, one of the Airbnbs we stayed at, Ryan shut the door because like the fan kind of blew it open and it like slowly creeped open, which was creepy to me. So
Mm-hmm.
he just shut the door and then woke up and the door was open.
What is it with you guys indoors?
I don't know. That was creepy. No, but here Ryan was at his mom's this last weekend, so I was by myself, and my roommate wasn't here. She was at her girlfriend's house, so I'm by myself, and I'm down here, and I just hear someone walking around upstairs.
Ooh.
Yeah. So my house is very creaky. So when someone's walking around, you hear them. So that was creepy.
Very.
So yeah.
I heard something walking around above me, but it wasn't a ghost. I wish it was a fucking ghost.
A rodent, right?
Yeah, those bastards have found their way back in.
I thought the
I
guy sealed it though.
He did, but they are like, if they want to get in, they're gonna get in. And he said that even. And they had moved into our neighbor's house and I knew this was gonna happen because over the last week I've seen pest control at their house. And I was like, oh shit, they're gonna kick them out of there and they're gonna come right back into ours because they know it's familiar. And sure enough, actually, when I was setting up for our podcast with
Paddy wagon?
Patty Wagon, I was sitting here getting ready and I heard them. I'm like, oh, don't do this to me right now.
Yeah, I remember you saying that last night.
Yeah. So I wish it was ghosts. Seriously.
I mean, I'll take ghosts over raccoons.
Yeah, I would
I
too.
mean, did I tell you we had that raccoon dead in our yard? Did I tell you that?
No.
It's like out front and it's dead and it's been there since wintertime because we just won't touch it and it hasn't decomposed. It just has not decomposed like the way it should. I don't understand. Like even when it's been hot, it has not decomposed and it's been there for months. So leave it to my mom who comes watch the dogs, stays here at my house while we're gone. She's here like for 5 seconds to pick us up to the airport. She goes out front, she grabs a shovel, she lifts up the freaking raccoon and takes it in the back and throws it away in the bushes.
Oh my god.
Leave it to her. I thought you were
going to tell me it was a stuffed animal or something that's just been laying there.
Oh my god. I wish. But just leave it to my mom. Just deal with it herself. Like, I don't want to know. So, ugh, gross. So
nasty.
Yeah. You're nasty.
It seems like I had something, like, I don't remember. I need to write shit down because my memory is so bad. But it seemed like I had like a synchronicity thing and just like a weird glitch in the matrix thing, and I can't remember either one of them. So yay for me and yay for you guys, because once again I forget cool shit to talk about.
I actually have a synchronicity. I had a client. So for those who don't know, I was born on February 29th.
That's what it was. You just jarred my memory. Thank you.
So this client had the exact same birthday as me, the exact same year.
Oh.
So leap year of that year, we had the same birthday. And then yesterday I had to call the doctor's office and she's like, oh, my brother-in-law has that same birthday as you. So I've been like, there's been so many February 29th birthday related stuff happening lately.
Yeah, that is rare too. Super rare.
Yeah, that's why it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
What's yours?
So I think it was the last episode we did. It was one of the last couple episodes we did, and you told me that I looked like Morticia and all those people.
Yes.
That same week, I went to work, and one of my clients, we were chit-chatting, and she was in theater, and she played more. She was like, "Yeah, I had the role of Morticia." And I was like, "Really? That's fucking cool." But one of those little things that It just seems like that always happens with our clients. Like we'll talk about stuff here and then we'll have clients that same week that bring the same
I
shit
know,
up.
it's
Like
so weird.
and it happens all the time.
So weird.
So yeah.
Also, if you can hear construction, I'm sorry, they're doing construction on my house. So we can keep the animals from getting in, like the bats. So
Yeah, we're sick and tired of it. We love animals, but we don't want wild animals in our homes. Sorry, guys. Move on.
moving on. All right, so you ready to get into today's topic?
Yeah, 16 minutes in. I was just looking at that and I saw it was 15 minutes already. I'm like, oh shit, everybody's gone.
Sometimes, no. Sometimes we just have updates to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
Big.
yeah.
He wants to be part of the show.
If his mouth starts moving, though, that's when I'm going to freak out. So, last week we went into more of the history of the Brothers Grimm. And now, this episode, we're going to get into the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm.
Very excited about this.
And I'm not sure, like, German folklore, you guys are dark and gory and even things made for children.
I should have been German.
I'm pretty sure I have German blood in me. Obviously, I can't
Same.
pronounce German words, as we established from last week.
Yeah, I have German in me too.
But it's just, no offense, it's just not a pretty language.
I think it grows on you. Like the more I hear it, the more I like it.
It's just because we were in Munich, so we heard a lot of German, and like the words they use to spell things are so long. I'm like, it's like 50 words in this, or like 50 letters in this word. It's a lot.
I actually like the way the German accent sounds when they speak English. I like that sound.
That I do, yeah. So, all right. So we're going to pick a few main fairy tales that we know here, and then I'll go into a few of their own fairy tales, like the few of their darkest fairy tales that they have. And so we're going to start first with Snow White. Which you look kind of like Snow White.
I had a feeling you were going to say that as soon as you said Snow White.
You just know me so well.
Yeah, I sure
It's because, like, the paler face and then the black hair. That's all. That's all.
I don't think she had the bangs, though. She had the, like, kind of Karen thing going on with a bow.
That's fair. All right, so Snow White was first published in Grimm's Fairy Tales in 1812, and the brothers themselves, they made a few changes to the story in subsequent editions. So Snow White's original villain was not her stepmother. So in Disney's version is that we know that the main antagonist in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is the queen, and the queen becomes jealous of her stepdaughter's beauty and forces her to work as a maid in the castle. And when the evil queen's magic mirror declares that Snow White's beauty has surpassed her own, she infamously tries to have the young princess killed. So we all know this story. In the Grimm's version, while the queen is still the villain, she's actually Snow White's birth mother, not her stepmother. And some believe...
What a bitch.
Even worse, yeah. And some believe that the Grimms may have decided that the idea of a mother doing such terrible things to her own child was too disturbing for a children's book. So changing it to Snow White's stepmother, it gave them a degree of separation. And in the Disney version, Snow White, she was only 14 years old, which I didn't know that. It's funny because I think even Ariel and the Little Mermaid was 16. And they're just like,
Yeah.
I love this boy. I want to marry him. And like when you're younger, you're like, just let them who they like want to be with. And you're like, girl, no, you're 16 years old.
No wonder her dad was so pissy.
I know. I think we're just like in our evil queen era.
Yeah.
And Grimm's Snow White. The story says that Snow White is only 7 years old.
What?
Yeah. And when the magic mirror declares her more beautiful than the queen, it isn't stated in the fairy tale outright, but it seems Snow White spends a significantly longer time in her poison apple-induced coma since she's of marrying age when she awakens. In Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the evil queen orders the huntsman to cut out Snow White's heart and bring it to her as proof of her death. The huntsman takes the princess to the forest, but he can't bring himself to kill Snow White and tells her to flee instead. He then tricks the queen by giving her a pig's heart, but she soon learns the truth from her magic mirror. But in Grimm's Snow White, had the queen order the huntsman to bring her different organs, so she wanted her lungs and liver. And the queen explained that she plans to eat her daughter's organs.
Or.
Whore?
Vor.
Oh. Yeah, it is vor. Go check out that episode, Weird Fetishes.
Yeah. Great
You're
plug.
like, yeah. In the Disney version, the dwarf's cottage is such a mess. So when Snow White shows up, she believes 7 orphan children must be living there with no adult supervision. So she proceeds to clean the house, cook a meal before falling asleep on their beds. Which kind of reminds me of is it Goldilocks and the 3 Little Bears, or Goldilocks and the 3 Bears?
Mm-hmm. The porridge.
Mm-hmm. And the dwarves are astonished when they return and agree to let Snow White stay with them once they learn that the evil queen is after her. But in the Grimm's version, it's the opposite. The dwarf's cottage is neat and tidy, and when Snow White arrives, again, it's very similar to Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. She eats a bit of food from each of the dwarf's plate, drinks a bit of wine from each of their cups, and tests out each of their beds before falling asleep. And they are appalled to find that someone has been in their house, but, they quickly forgive the princess.
That does sound a lot like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears.
Mm-hmm. And in the Disney version, when the evil queen learns that the princess is still alive, she decides to take matters in her own hands. As we remember, she makes the poisoned apple. She disguises herself as the old woman and goes to Snow White while the dwarves are away at work. And the queen then convinces the princess to eat the apple by saying, "I'll grant all your wishes." And we all know she falls into a death-like coma. But the Grimm's version, it takes the queen a couple times to actually try to kill Snow White. So first, she disguises herself as a peddler, selling ribbons, and offers to replace Snow White's bodice. She laces it so tight that the princess passes out, but the dwarves save her by cutting the laces. The queen then returns with a new disguise and gives Snow White a poisoned comb, but the dwarves save her again by removing the comb from her hair, and then that's when she finally makes the poison apple. Let's see. So in Disney, we know it begins with the princess meeting her prince at the wishing well, and they quickly fall in love because she's 14 and knows what she wants. But with Snow White being forced to go into hiding, she doesn't see him again till the end of the movie. And after hearing about Snow White's apparent death, the prince returns to save his love, and they all live happily ever after. Blah, blah, blah. So...
blah, blah, blah. happily ever after.
They live happily ever after. All your worries are no longer an issue because you married your Prince Charming.
Yeah, I bet that went real well. Let's check back in 10 years, see how things are going.
After like 5 kids and
all the mistresses that he probably
I was just about to
had.
say Prince Charming stepping out. I mean, he's the prince after all. Or he could be Joffrey from Game of Thrones type of prince. You just never know. So the happily ever after bullshit.
Yada, yada, yada.
So in contrast, though, the prince does not appear in the Grimm's version until after she bites the apple. Remember, she's 7 years old, okay? In the Grimm's version, 7. While traveling, the prince stops at the dwarf's cottage for shelter, sees Snow White in her glass casket, and immediately becomes infatuated with her. He convinces the dwarves to let him take the princess home with him and spends many days just staring at the sleeping girl.
What a creep.
It's not great.
No.
The prince also can't stand being away from her and has his servants carry her casket around wherever he goes. That's just so creepy.
It's disgusting. What a pedo. Ugh.
I know. 7. And as we know in the Disney's version, the spell's instructions by the evil queen clarify that the apple's curse can be broken by
The lover's kiss. Is that right?
true love's first kiss.
True love's first kiss, not the lover's first kiss. Because he's a pedo. Ugh. Shame on you.
But the queen thinks the dwarves will bury Snow White before her prince can come kiss her. So, of course, she's wrong, as they can't bring themselves to bury the princess, and the prince comes to save her with true love's kiss.
Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah.
I know. In Grimm's version, there's no kiss. To wake up, Snow White just needs to dislodge the piece of poison apple stuck in her throat.
Oh, this is great.
So technically, they could have just done the Heimlich whatever from the beginning.
Heimlich remover.
I have brain frog, okay? Hardwoods. So they could have just done the Heimlich on her, and it would have been fine.
I'm going to start saying that from now on.
You're just going to say a lot of my stuff.
The Heimlich remover.
Oh. If I never felt more stupid in my life, it's because of this podcast.
Oh my god. Editing is hilarious. I'm like, how do we make it through the days? I don't know.
How have I made it 37 years of my life? I need to know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, all I literally needed to do was dislodge the poison apple that was stuck in her throat. So in the story's first edition, this happens when one of the prince's servants, who's tired of carrying the princess casket around, opens it and slaps her on the back. So, and then later editions change this to a servant tripping while carrying the casket, which jostles it enough to dislodge the apple.
Just a side note, if somebody's choking, don't slap them on the back. Because that can lodge whatever they're choking on even further.
But I mean, that sounds like funny. He's like, I'm tired of carrying this bitch around, and he's just like, screw this bitch, and slaps her on the back. just So he doesn't have to carry her around anymore. Like, obviously, he's the most sensible one in this goddamn story. Okay. So in Disney's version, the evil queen meets a dark but a fitting end, right? The dwarves come home to find Snow White seemingly dead. They chase after the disguised queen and corner her on a cliff. She tries to tip a boulder on them, but lightning strikes the ground at her feet, causing the cliff to collapse, and the evil queen then falls over the side with the boulder toppling after her.
Bad way to go.
Still kind of a dark version for Disney.
Yeah.
And while the queen still dies in the Grimm's version, her cause of death is even darker. After Snow White is revived by the apple being dislodged from her throat, the queen consults her magic mirror and is livid when it says that the princess bride-to-be is more beautiful than her. She then goes to the wedding and is shocked to find that the bride is Snow White. And as punishment for her murder attempts, the queen is forced to put on burning hot iron shoes and dances until she dies.
Holy shit, that reminds me of one of the torture methods that we talked about in that episode that you can find.
Oh, look at you plugging that in.
But I don't do it very well because I can't think of words that you can find on
It's one of our earlier episodes about all the different torture methods.
Yeah, torture throughout the ages, and we're still wanting to go to Chicago to go to the torture museum.
You can find this on patreon.com/weeklybazaar.
Weekly Bazaar.
Just plugging away over here.
Hey, trudging along.
Yeah. Guys, come on, cut us a break. We're cursed.
We're cursed, we're haunted. Like, what did we do to deserve this?
This is us saying when fairy tales go wrong. This is our life. This is our dark side of the fairy tale living. Okay. Like Snow White sings to the animals, and I just get dead raccoons in my yard.
Yeah. She sings at the animals, and I scream at them because I want them out of my attic.
Perfect. I love this for us.
I hate it.
All right, so there's actually the Brothers Grimm do have themes in their books. So they do tone down sex in later editions of their work, but instead they ramp up the violence. So for example, So for example, in The Six Swans, an evil mother-in-law is burned at the stake, and the goose maid, a false bride, is stripped naked, thrown into a barrel filled with nails, and dragged through the streets. And even like the love stories they have in their themes, they still contain violence. The princess and the frog. The princess in the quote, the Frog King, end quote, is the name, turns her amphibian companion into a human, not by kissing it, but instead by throwing it against a wall in frustration.
Oh.
Fish are amphibians too. And much of the violence in Grimm's fairy tales, it's directed at children. So again, remember Snow White was 7 years old when the huntsman takes her in the forest and orders to bring back her liver and lungs. 7 years old. I just can't get past that.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a bit much, guys. What were you thinking there? But I mean, it was different times, so...
Yeah, still dark for children, I think, but just makes them tougher skin, you know? The title character in, I don't know how to say this, Trude, I have no idea. Turns, I have no idea. I don't know I think it's French. I have no idea. Anyway, in this story, a disobedient girl is turned into a block of wood, and then she's tossed as a block of wood into the fire. And in The Stubborn Child, a youngster dies after God lets him become sick. And so a lot of their themes too, you have incest in their stories. And in All Kinds of Fur, a king promises his dying wife that he will only remarry if his new bride is as beautiful as her. And unfortunately, no such woman exists in this whole world except his daughter, who ends up escaping his clutches by fleeing into the wilderness. And then there's also a different version of, there's also a story, The Girl Without Hands, with an incestuous father, and the tale is about a poor miller who wants to give his daughter to the devil in exchange for riches. And to make everything worse, the miller is instructed to chop off the girl's hands before the deal can be completed.
It's dark.
Yeah. And wicked stepmothers, they are also a theme in their stories. And the Grimms originally included some evil biological mothers as well in their stories. In an 1812 version of Hansel and Gretel, a wife persuades her husband to abandon their children in the woods because they don't have enough food to feed them. And again, we just went over Snow White, who is also an evil stepmother who at first wishes for and then becomes infatuated by her own daughter's beauty. And so the Grimms has turned both of these characters in later editions. And now we're going to get into one of my favorites is Cinderella. Because Cinderella was not originally intended for small children.
Oh, really?
No. So, as usual, we know the story. The Disney classic focuses on a beautiful young woman, the death of her mother, her father remarries, then dies himself, and her stepmother being a horrible woman with two less than pleasant daughters who then treat the young woman as a slave in her own house. And the conclusion we also know is a fairy godmother, a glass slipper, and a prince. So both versions actually start off much the same. A young girl's mother passes away, but before she passes, and what she tells her daughter has changed briefly with each telling. And there are some that are more religious than others, some based more on Catholic sentiment, and others are based more on magic. But the general statement is the same: be kind, be good, and you will be protected.
Did you ever watch Ever After with Drew Barrymore?
Actually, no, I have not.
Oh, it was so sweet. I loved it. It was based on the Cinderella story. And she was just so adorable back in the day. I love Drew Barrymore.
Did you ever watch Once Upon a Time? The show?
I don't think so. What was it?
It started out good. Basically, it's real Disney characters that are trapped living in the evil queen curses them into living a normal life.
Oh,
So
yeah. I don't think I've seen
they're
that.
normal people, but they don't know they're under this curse. And so they're really like one of them is Cinderella, like Snow White, etc. And they have to break the curse.
When did that air? Is this pretty old?
It's been out for a long time, yeah. A long time, probably like 2012, 2013. Started out good. And then did not end well. It got weird. I feel like that's usually how series go anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if they try to make them drag out.
So in Grimm's version, Cinderella's father is actually alive, although he doesn't care for his daughter anymore. It's a little harsh.
Yeah.
So we know in Disney's version, it implied that she was a loving and caring mother, but she never gets to tell the major sentiment of the whole story: be kind and be good. Instead, it is more viewed that Cinderella is just kind and gentle-spirited by nature, and that it's something she may have gotten from her mother's influence before she passed when Cinderella was only 10 years old. And the age in the Disney version is referred to, but there's no mention of age in the Grimm's version. After the passing of her mother, Cinderella is no longer welcome as a family member to the father or the household. This is why she became the Cinder Girl.
Cinder soot. Have you ever heard that?
No. What does that mean?
That's what she was called. Maybe that's from Ever After. They called her Cinder soot.
I was like, I don't remember that in the Disney version.
No, it definitely wasn't in the Disney version.
Maybe it was Ever After. Because in the Disney version, they allow Cinderella to have a room in the top of the house, but in the Grimm's version, she doesn't even have a bed. Instead, she must sleep in the kitchen as the maid in front of the fire, and this causes her clothes and most of her to be blackened with soot and cinder. So the nasty stepsisters in both versions, that's what they gave her the name Cinderella. And
yeah, I think Cinder soot's from Ever After. The stepsisters called her that.
If you know, just email us at weeklybazaarpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So there's no fairy godmother in the Grimm's version. Instead, Cinderella goes to her mother's grave every day.
Aww.
One time, when her father is away on the trip, she asks him to bring back the first branch that brushes his hat. He does, and when he gives it to her, she plants the twig at her mother's grave. The twig grows into a hazel bush, and when Cinderella goes to the grave and cries, a white bird throws down to Cinderella what she wished for. In the Grimm's version, there is no ball, but a 3-day festival where all the young ladies of the kingdom are invited. But both versions, Cinderella is not allowed to go. So when Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters leave the house, she goes and cries at the tree of her mother's grave. The white bird then throws down to her a new beautiful dress each night. And in the 1857 version, there is no mention of returning by midnight, but in the 1812 version, the bird tells her that she needs to leave by midnight or the magic will end. And what's neat in the 1857 version is that she simply walks to the festival, but the older version actually has a magical coach show up at the door each night. So remember, the Prince's Ball in the Grimm's version takes place over the course of 3 days and not just like the one ball in the Disney version, that one night. And each day she runs away from the prince, and each day he goes looking for her. So in Grimm's version, Cinderella decides she's tired and she wishes to leave, and the prince insists on walking her home. However, each night she evades him. The first night she goes through a chicken coop. The prince then runs into her father, who takes an axe to the coop, but Cinderella is not there. The second night, she climbs a tree. The prince then runs into her father again, who then cuts down the tree, but she's already gone. And the third night, the prince puts pitch on the steps, but just causes her shoe to stick. So I think that's just kind of a sticky thing. I have no idea what pitch is.
So weird. It's like tar.
Okay. Again, sounds like a creeper stalker.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So in the Grimm's version, the slipper is not glass. It was small, and this is quote, it was small and dainty and a pure gold, end quote. The prince finds it. He knows roughly where she must live because, he's walked her part of the way to her house 2 nights in a row and ran into the same man at the same place, her father, duh. And then goes to the house of the man who helped him, which again, Cinderella's father, and asks to fit his daughters. So as we know, remember in Disney, they call like the whole kingdom, searches the whole kingdom to find the glass slipper that's going to fit this woman.
Mm-hmm.
But in Grimm's version, they did not search the whole kingdom for a lady to fit the slipper. Because including like the Disney, they state that the slipper is a magical and it won't fit anyone but Cinderella. So that's how we know it's Cinderella's slipper.
Because she had a teeny tiny little foot.
Yes. So the prince gives the shoe to one of the stepsisters, which obviously doesn't fit, but the stepmother sees how she may be able to have a daughter that is a queen, so she tells her to cut off her toe.
I remember that part in the Disney one where they're trying to fit their big fat feet in that tiny little slipper.
Yeah, so she's like, okay, well, just, cut off your toe. It'll be fine. I need you to be queen. The slipper fits after she cuts off her toe, but
that is
but
so messed up. It's like Chinese foot binding, only the extreme version.
But the birds warn the prince while he was riding away with the stepsister. Oh, I don't even know if I'm saying this right. This is what it is. Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo, there's blood in the shoe is too tight, the bride is not right.
Wook-de-goo?
Wook-de-goo, 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 wook-de-goo. There's blood in the shoe is too tight, the bride is not right.
Oh. Wook-de-goo.
Which, like...
It's like whoop-de-doo. Is that what it started off as? Wook-de-goo, and then it became whoop-de-doo?
No, there's no whoop-de-doo. It's still wook-de-goo, wook-de-goo. But, like, as the prince who's walked this woman home several times, wouldn't you be like, what? I don't know. And then you have to cut off your foot, part of your foot to fit in the shoe, and that wasn't, like, red flag for him to be like, that's not my princess.
How are you going to explain that one? It's a little far-fetched.
And then that's when you listen to the birds. So the prince listens to the birds and returns the stepsister to her house, and he asks for another young lady. So then the second sister then tries it. Of course, that doesn't fit. And then the stepmother tells her to cut off her heel.
Oh.
The part that's similar in the tellings that Cinderella gets a chance to try it on, but before she comes out, she washes her face and hands, from all the Cinderella stuff.
From the soot.
Right when the prince sees her, he immediately recognizes her beauty, and the slipper is a perfect fit. I mean, it's nice that in the original version, he recognizes his bride before trying on the slipper. Like, hello? The guy who danced with her for like 3 whole nights recognizes her?
Yeah.
And in the Grimm's version, at the wedding, the sisters attempt to regain Cinderella's favor. The 2 white pigeons that warned the prince perch on Cinderella's shoulder for the event. And then this is a quote from the Grimm's story. When the bridal couple walked into the church, the older sister walked on their right side and the younger on their left side, and the pigeons pecked out one eye from each of them. Afterwards, as they came out of the church, the older one who was on the left side and the younger one on the right side, and then the pigeons pecked out the other eye from each of them.
Hardcore.
And thus, for their wickedness and falsehood, they were punished with blindness as long as they lived. End quote. So the Grimm's message of the sisters being forced to mutilate themselves by their mother and then going blind due to their own greed. So that was their message in their story.
This is why you can't bring birds into barbershops.
That's the reason why.
They're gonna poke out your eye. Pluck out your eye. That is still not correct. Peck out your eye. What was the whoop-de-doo? It's not whoop-de-doo. What is it? Whoop-de-goo.
Rook-de-goo. Rook-de-goo. So
Rook? Like with an R?
Yeah, R-O-O-K. Rook-de-goo. D-I-G-O-O.
Oh.
Rook-de-goo. Rook-de-goo. There's blood in the shoe is too tight, the bride is not right. So now we have Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Cap.
It is Little Red Cap, yeah.
I remember that from last episode.
Yeah, because Brothers Grimm, they translated as Little Red Cap. The beginning is quite similar, describing the little girl as a child beloved by everyone, but especially by her grandmother, who gives her a little cap of red velvet that the girl loves so much she doesn't wear anything else, hence her name, Little Red Cap. And the way the mother sends her child into the forest is very different. In the Grimm's fairy tale, the mother knows the grandmother is ill and sends her child with a small cake and a bottle of wine to make her feel better.
Hell yeah.
The mother of the Grimm versions gives her daughter precise instructions and advice before she sets alone for the woods. Quote, "Set out before it gets hot, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path. Don't forget to say good morning and don't peep into every corner," etc. End quote. So basically the motif in the Brothers version is breaking the rules. Because this is the mother's order to not run off the path that is broken by Little Red Cap, per the wolf's temptation, the Grimm's version is literally blaming Little Red Cap, or Riding Hood if you want to call her. So somehow she needs to be punished for breaking the rules, which I think is very harsh for a child's story, that this is what happens when you break the rules, and don't listen to your mother, kids.
Mm-hmm.
In the Grimm's version, the grandmother lives deep into the woods, under the 3 large oak trees, right below the nut trees. Also in their version is that the wolf seems to want to eat the grandmother first, since it's what motivates him to ask where the grandmother lives. But he then notices how of a, quote, "nice plump mouthful," end quote, the little girl is, and decides to eat her also. Instead of racing between 2 paths where the wolf encourages the little girl to take the longest path, the wolf of the Grimms encourages the girl to stay off the path by pointing out the pretty flowers, the singing birds, and the merry woods. Ultimately, Little Red Cap decides to run off the path into the woods to pick flowers to make a fresh nosegay for her grandmother. No idea what that is.
No, me either.
Here in the Brothers...
How's it spelled?
Nosegay.
Really?
Yeah. Nosegay. Maybe like a bundle of flowers? You're Googling it, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm very curious about what a nosegay is. Yeah, you were right. A small bunch of flowers, typically one that is sweet scented. That makes sense.
Like makes your nose happy?
Yeah. Oh.
There you go, folks. In the Brothers version, the wolf forgets to close the door, which the girl notices, and while the deep voice element is not in their story, the girl says that she feels uneasy walking into the house, not the feeling she usually gets going to her grandmother's. The wolf is in bed, the cap of the grandmother pulled down over her face. The dialogue with the grandma wolf is also changed to the iconic exchange known by everyone today. Or almost. "Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have. The better to hear you with, my child." The grandmother.
With her eyes?
No, what big ear? Did I say eyes? I said ears.
We'll find out when we edit.
Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have.
The better to see you with, my dear.
But grandmother, what big eyes you have.
Are you waiting for me or
Yeah.
are you waiting on the dudes?
I'm waiting on you.
The better to see you with, my dear.
But grandmother, what large hands you have.
Is this gonna get pervy or like pedo-y?
The better to hug you with.
Wouldn't that be arms and not hands? Just saying.
That's what it says. Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have.
The better to eat you with, my dear.
Yeah. So the brothers' version, the wolf falls asleep in the bed, snoring so loudly that a huntsman passing by hears the very loud snores coming out of the house and thinking, is that the old woman? Just passing Jessica's house. He decides
That's Tony
to...
that you can hear snoring, not me.
Is that the old lady? So he decides to check if she needs anything, but finds the wolf on the bed. The hunter exclaims that he has been looking for the wretched creature for quite some time, indicating that the huntsman was literally hunting the wolf. And another interesting detail, most people recall the savior of the protagonist as being a woodsman with an axe, but here it's a huntsman with a rifle who is about to shoot at the wolf before he realizes that maybe the wolf devoured the old woman of the house. Poor grandma.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes a pair of scissors and cuts open the belly of the sleeping wolf. And yes, the wolf is still alive. He is in a deep sleep.
It's messed up, but I mean, he deserves it.
When he cuts, he notices the shining red cap, which encourages him to dig deeper until he delivers the girl and then grandma. Another thing people often get wrong with the story is they remember that the one who put stones in the belly of the wolf is the woodsman or huntsman, which I don't even remember that. But no, it is little Red Cap herself who picks up the rocks and places them in the belly so that when the wolf awakes and tries to run away, he falls down dead. Everybody is happy. The hunter takes the skin of the wolf and returns home with it. The grandmother eats the cake and drinks the wine and heals thanks to it.
Oh my god.
So if you're ill, all you need someone is just bring you cake and wine.
If you spent the last 24 hours inside the stomach of a wolf, it's nothing a bottle of wine can't fix. The hell?
Hashtag good vibes. Remember that time I was eaten by a wolf? Cheers! And Red Cat promises herself, as long as I live, I will never by myself leave the path to run into the woods when my mother has forbidden me to do so. So again, the moral is a girl is taught a lesson for disobeying her parents, which is a pretty bad lesson to be eaten by a wolf, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. It's a little much, guys.
But in the Grimm's version, the story does not stop here. There is another part of the story that is dropped from many people's memory, that on another day, as Red Cap was again bringing cakes to her grandmother, because she's a glutinous, I guess, another wolf came to speak to her and tried to convince her to stay off the path. But Red Cap, having learned her lesson, refused to do so, and upon arriving at her grandmother's house, told her about meeting the wolf. She says that he had such a wicked look in his eyes, she was quite certain if they hadn't been on a public road, he would have eaten her. The grandmother shuts the door so the wolf may not enter, and yes, the wolf arrives and tries to pass off as Red Cap to have the door opened. Since the two do not answer or react to the wolf's knocking, the beast decides to jump on the roof and wait until the evening falls, so that when little Red Cap leaves the house, he might devour her in the darkness. The grandmother, however, quickly guesses what the wolf is doing, so she creates a plan. In front of her house is a great stone trough. She tells Little Red to take the water that she boiled sausages yesterday and use it to fill the trough. When the wolf smells the scent of sausages, he sniffs and looks down. Stretching himself by the side of the road, he loses his footing, falls into the trough and drowns in the water.
That's a big trough.
Poor wolf. Just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to do just some of their darkest stories. They're not very long, but they're pretty dark. Have you heard of the juniper tree?
I don't think so.
So the juniper tree is a gruesome tale and even features cannibalism and murder.
Oh, I've definitely not heard of this then.
The story starts out with a happy couple unable to conceive and then takes various turns that have us shocked at every corner. When the couple eventually has a son, the mother is so happy that she dies. She is buried under the juniper
Damn.
tree. Yeah, that's pretty dark. I'm so happy. Dead. She is buried under the juniper tree upon her request. The husband remarries later and has a second child, a daughter. His new wife is extremely jealous of the son's beauty, becomes possessed by the evil one, and so plots his death. She tricks him into opening a chest with the promise of an apple, and then brutally chops his head off, using the lid in its heavy lock as he peers in. The evil woman pushes the murder onto her daughter and then forces to help prepare and cook the son for the husband's dinner to hide the crime.
Here we go with people cooking bodies again.
Boiling heads.
Boiling heads.
The daughter's cries so much the stew doesn't need salt. I don't know what that means.
You got me. I don't know.
When the father returns home, he enjoys the stew so much he eats it all and throws the bones away under the table. The distraught daughter then gathers her brother's bones and sets them under the juniper tree. The boy is then brought back to life as a bird with a beautiful song, and after collecting various gifts for his father and sister and a rather heavy millstone, he returns home. He sings his beautiful song over and over to the woman, driving her to insanity. When she runs out of the house, following her daughter and husband, he drops the millstone on her and kills her, leaving only smoke, flames, and fire. The son then transforms from a bird back into his human body, and the resurrected son, daughter, and father live happily ever after. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the robber bridegroom?
No.
This is one of the Grimm's brothers' darkest tales. It is the tale of a daughter of a miller who was betrothed to a suitor by her father. She has a bad feeling about him, so she tries to avoid him. Even thinking about him makes her shudder. When she is literally forced to visit him at home in his creepy house in the darkest depth of the woods, she learns the truth about her future husband and his crew. When she arrives at his horrible house in the forest, she comes across a bird in a cage that warns her, turn back, you young bride, you are in a murderer's house." The girl looks around the dark, creepy house until she finds an old woman in the cellar. The old woman describes her fate if she were to stay and urges her to hide behind a huge cask. Quote, "When they have thee in their power, they will kill thee without mercy, cook and eat thee, for they are eaters of human flesh." End quote. When the bridegroom and his gang of friends return home drunk, they drag in another maiden. The girl witnesses several men force the maiden to drink several glasses of wine, which in turn kills her. They strip her of her clothes, lay her on the table, and chop her body into pieces and prepare her for dinner. One of the men chops a finger off to retrieve a gold ring, and the finger flies off the table from the savage chop and onto the miller daughter's lap.
Yeah, they do have a lot of themes of cannibalism in their stories.
Mm-hmm. The old woman puts a sleeping potion into the men's drink, and while all the men are asleep, the young girl and the old woman escape. And on her wedding day, she uses the finger as evidence to reveal her evil suitor's action. And the bridegroom and his group of murderers are then all executed of their crimes. And the last one I have is Hansel and Gretel, which we all know Hansel and Gretel, right?
Yep.
Hansel and Gretel.
It's been a long time since I've heard the story, though. So
There's different versions of it, like every movie. Hansel and Gretel was first published in 1812, and this version comes from a revised 1852 edition written by the Brothers Grimm. And if you don't know, which I don't know how you don't know, but Hansel and Gretel is a story about two poor children and their narrow escape from a cannibal which lived in a house of sweets. Hansel and Gretel are two children of a poor woodcutter and a horrible stepmother. Unable to feed themselves, the stepmother persuades the father to lead the children into the woods and leave them there. Hansel, being smart, leaves a trail of breadcrumbs so they can find their way home. But when it's eaten by birds, the children end up wandering into the woods for days. They eventually come to a house made of sweets and set about eating it as they are starved. Then a soft voice cried from the parlor, "Nibble, nibble, gnaw, who is nibbling at my little house?" The children answered, the wind, the heaven-born wind." The old lady, as old as the hills that inhabits the house, lures the children
Just like
inside
me.
with food and comfort. You're old as a crow, not as the hills. She turns out to be an awful witch who imprisons them and tries to fatten them up to kill and eat. She locks Hansel in a stable outside and uses Gretel as her maid and helper in the preparation for the cooking of her brother. After many months, the time comes for her to kill and eat them both. But through cleverness and trickery, Gretel managed to kill the witch by pushing her into the oven meant for the children and roasting her to death. The children escape with her riches, make their way back through the forest, and eventually return home to their poor father. While they have been gone, their horrid stepmother has since died, and so the three lived happily ever after.
Yada, yada, yada. Would you have
Blah,
gone
blah,
back?
blah.
I would have been like, screw you, Dad. I'm out. You dropped me off outside of this cannibal's house. You married a woman that was treated us like shit. You're on your own. Peace.
I mean, why would you want to leave a house of sweets? I'm just saying.
Yeah, true.
Like, you heard what I can eat in one
just
day.
take over that house, and that's a happily ever after, for sure.
I know.
Especially if it, like, once you eat it, it replenishes itself again.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
So that is some of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. That's all I have. It's been a rough episode.
It's been a hard one to get through, definitely. If you notice our energy shifting throughout, it's just, again, the dark cloud that is us. Shit just happens. But I will say, I like their style, but they are kind of repetitive. Like, they
do have common themes.
Yeah, a lot of the same themes, like the wicked stepmom and the cannibalism, and it's very repetitive.
And with their stories, whereas I feel like Disney tries to focus on happily ever afters, their focus is lessons that children need to be learned.
Yeah.
even as gruesome as, well, Little Red Riding Hood or Little Red Cap, she didn't listen to her mom, so she got eaten by a wolf. So maybe you should listen to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's go big or go home. But I do like the fact that their happily ever afters are kind of different than Disney's happily ever afters.
Yeah, definitely a lot darker. The few people that I watch on YouTube that are German, I love their sense of humor so much. It's just so much like my family's, to be honest. Like, it's just dark and morbid, and I love it. It's hilarious.
Well, those are just a few of their stories. But I try to pick some of their darkest stories.
Yeah. I'd never heard of was it Juniper Tree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that one.
And like the Miller's Daughter, where he wants to sell his daughter to the devil, but yet she has to cut off her hands. And then there's like a saying in there or something, she like cries into her stumps.
I wonder if it's so gruesome because that's just the time that they lived in, where that stuff was kind of normal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for like punishments. So that was not a fart. That was the arm of my couch, if you heard that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's just the way life was. And like with the young girls too. I mean, that's kind of how life was back then.
I mean, let's not like carry around a woman in a glass case just because you can't be away from her. That's
Creepy.
A little weird.
And she was 7. She wasn't even a woman. She was 7. Wasn't she?
Yeah, she's 7 years old. Yeah,
that was that story. Yeah.
So it's like almost their versions aren't really about love. It's more just like how they get there. Like, okay, well, Cinderella and the prince, they get married, but first we gotta like gouge the stepsister's eyes out, and they've already cut parts of their feet already.
It's just about as dark as I expected it to be. That's it. That's all. I wonder how different people would respond to this, because we're just so used to like dark shit anyway. Like, I wonder if somebody that's all sweet and likes happy things, and their reactions would probably be way better than ours. We're just like, eh.
Oh yeah, she just like cut off her toe, and you're just like, okay, that's strange.
Yeah.
Moving on. Or like someone like my mom that can't handle that stuff. She's like, oh, that's so disgusting. Why would they do that? That's so disgusting. We're just like, we're like, that sucks.
That's rough. Rough way to go.
Oh my god.
Take it away. Take it away.
Well, guys, we appreciate all the support and love, because we're cursed. It is what it is. So if you can stick through it, you guys are the true MVPs.
Yes.
But new episodes released every Thursday. You can find us on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, at Weekly Bazaar Podcast. You can email us for any stories at weeklybazaarpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can join us on Patreon. It's only $5 a month. It truly does support us at patreon.com/weeklybazaar. Even if you don't, we still love you and appreciate the support. And I think that's it, right?
You nailed it as usual. That was actually one of your best. I'm proud.
Thank you.
You didn't stumble once.
You should bow down. Thank you.
Round of applause. Insert here.
Well, if it's weird,
we're gonna talk about it.
Bye.
Bye.